Run. If you can't run, walk. You can't walk, crawl. But whatever you do, do not stop.
Yeah. By all means.
By all means.
Keep moving.
Keep moving.
Teddy Reese, ladies and gentlemen, what can I say about you, Teddy? I mean, like
you just spoke of one of my favorite people, Dr. Maya Angelou.
Come on.
And one of my favorite words from her is, people will forget what you say and they will forget what you do, but they will never forget how you make them feel. And I try to live my life that way. I want people, when they leave my presence, I want them to just have a feeling that can't be replaced.
Right.
One that can't be replicated.
Right.
And I do that because I want the same from others.
Right.
And when you're aiming to make someone feel that way, your actions are going to fall in line with what's required to get there. And that's usually, most times, all the time, something good, something positive.
Yeah, Teddy, I now, anybody who doesn't know you can hear you say that and be like, okay, well, is that really him? I know that's really you.
Thank you, brother.
Because we've been knowing each other for
a
long time, Teddy. Like,
long time.
I was doing Michael Jackson when I met you.
Yes. What year you graduated high school?
17. But we met at a pep rally.
Okay.
At the old Spencer, not the new one now.
Right.
And I think I don't even know how we became like friends or brother friends. I think it was just over time we saw each other and you asked me how I was doing, that's how you were doing.
Right.
And then because I think you were running before you ran for state representative, you ran for something else. Didn't you run for school board or something like that?
No, I ran for state senate. And prior to that, I ran for city council.
Right. So it's like, watching you from afar, Teddy, I don't know if I've ever said this to you in person, but has been such an honor to see not only a man of color, but a man of dignity.
Thank you, brother.
A great father.
Thank you.
I love how you love your wife.
Thank you.
I got to see that firsthand at your party, when you won the election. I got to see that, how you just loved her. Like,
she is my rock, Matthew. When I tell you, I could not be an effective representative without my wife.
Yeah.
I mean, for 3 months, think about it. For 3 months, I'm in Atlanta. I leave here Sundays at the church.
Right.
And I come back on Fridays.
Mm.
So I'm going all week. I've missed my daughter's entire week of school.
Mm.
I've missed an entire week at the house.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And to know that my wife, who is a doctor, so she's
a
very
good
busy
doctor too.
A very good doctor.
And it's one of the good doctor, right? Because she cares about her patients.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. She has a 9-month waiting list right now because people are trying so hard to come see her, because the word is out that, you want a African-American female doctor who's going to take her time.
Yeah.
To understand what's ailing you and help you fix that.
Yeah.
That's Dr. Reese. And so God truly sent me an amazing woman.
Yeah.
One that is doing a phenomenal job raising our daughter.
Right.
And just imparting in her the same values and morals that she carried. But, go back to something you said earlier. One of the things that I was impressed with you when I first met you was your talent.
Mm.
And it wasn't just your ability to dance. It was your ability to touch and reach people.
Mm.
You've always had that ability. And then something else that stood there with it was your mom.
Mm.
And she was always so supportive.
Yes, she was.
And she's very understanding. And like when I see her out in public, she'll always say, "I'm Matthew's mom," and I was like, she don't have to keep saying that. But she doesn't take for granted, because she realized all the people I see all the time, right? She's like, I don't expect this guy to remember who I am.
Yeah, of course.
But I'm going to make this correlation and we're going to be friendly about it.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate her. Tell her I say hello, please.
I will. We just, my mom, she often, she knows the struggle of a young man who's been raised with just his mother. Mm-hmm. I know that's similar to your story. Your mother raised you. Mm-hmm. So I think seeing you in the place that you're in gives her so much hope for me as her son that the world is my canvas. I can make it whatever, you know what I mean? I could do anything I want to do. Like, really, like, tell me, like, how were you able to be who you are today with how you were raised, with the limitations against you in the world, saying that children who raised without fathers won't be anything. How did you rise above?
I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing my mother and my grandmother instilled in me growing up was to believe, one, in who I am.
Yeah, yeah.
To know who I am.
Yeah.
Not to depend on someone else's determination or assessment of who I am.
Right.
And, to transition from that to being the first in my family to go to college, that was a transition. I'll never forget the first day I showed up at Albany State University, getting ready for school. When we pulled on campus, my mom said, well, you got to finish your paperwork and stuff. And I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, yeah.
So your grandmother and I are going to stay here in this room while you go take care of that. So I left out of the room and I marched over to the administrative building so that I could start working on registration, financial aid, things of that nature.
Right.
And it was a long process. And I remember finally getting done and heading back to my room and saying to myself, oh, God, now I got to unpack all this stuff, hang up all these clothes, get ready for class tomorrow. And when I walked in my room, everything was laid. The bed was made. The curtains were hung. My clothes were hung up.
Yeah.
My sock drawer was in order. My belts were hanging up. My snacks was on top of the refrigerator.
Yeah.
The little juicy juices were in the refrigerator. And I was like, oh, my God, you guys did this. And they was like, well, we couldn't go help you here, so we wanted to make sure that this was done. And that was their contribution. And that little head start, being able to get rest that night and go to class fully fresh, is today I still feel that energy that they gave me that day. I still feel that burst of wind behind my back pushing me, telling me on behalf of my ancestors, go be great. Go do something different.
We got you.
Be bold. Try something that no one else has tried around you.
Yeah.
Stand out from the crowd. Don't fall in line with everybody else. Make a name for yourself.
Yeah.
Chart a new path.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the spirit that they left me with. Chart a new path. And so, that's how I've been able to do so much by the grace of God and with the foundation of some amazing people. When I think about service, Matthew, I think about my grandmother who
I had the privilege of meeting.
Yes.
And she was
beautiful lady.
her crying at your pinning ceremony, I think it was called, her crying made me cry because like she's
the swearing in.
The swearing in.
Yeah.
I could tell she is the glue.
My grandmother raised 9 children by herself.
Man.
And she never owned a vehicle.
Man.
She never had a driver license.
I had to give her a hug.
The little country town where I grew up, Gordon, Georgia.
Yeah.
She worked in Milledgeville, which was about 9 miles away.
Yeah.
There was some mornings she would have to leave the house at 4 o'clock walking to work those 9 miles because she couldn't get a ride that day.
Right.
And she would come home and still cook dinner, clean up, do what needed to be done.
Yeah.
But what I was most impressed with is every morning, especially on the weekends, she would cook extra biscuits and a couple pieces of sausage that beyond the breakfast that was needed for the house. And she told me, she said, I always do this because a lot of times you have friends come over to play to you that are hungry. And we're all family around here.
Yeah.
And we need to help each other when we can.
Absolutely.
And those kids, I want to think they would play with me because we were popular, but I was popular. But I've come to terms
Grandma was
with
feeding them.
Some of them came because they were hungry.
Yeah.
They were hungry. And so
that was a great representation of really, your grandmother honestly was showing you how to take care of the people you call friends.
Absolutely. and it's not about having some model of
Right.
leadership in my family. No previously elected officials in my
Right.
immediate family anyway.
Right.
And so, and that carried over with me. And even at Albany State as a sophomore, when I decided to run for SGA president,
Right.
and ended up being elected to 2 terms. And the first under the name Albany State University to serve 2 terms.
Wow.
And so there's been some historical things in my path. Left there and went to Geico Corporate, where I worked a few years, and
Right.
went and worked for the city of Atlanta, the Mayor Shirley Franklin, and left
Right.
there and went to law school.
Right.
And
Well, you went to law school pretty late though, didn't you?
yeah, at the age of 29.
Okay.
It wasn't my plan.
Okay, right. I remember you were
yeah.
telling Sharon Jones that on the interview you did.
Yeah.
That it wasn't your plan to do that. You just
It
did
wasn't
it.
my plan. I was just kind of frustrated with where I was professionally, and kind of frustrated with my expectation of what things should have been around me.
What was missing from that point that you had to add your voice in and go to law school and do what you're doing today? What was missing?
I wouldn't say something was missing. What I would say is that I just didn't feel welcomed. Even though I was in the city of Atlanta.
Got it.
I didn't feel welcome.
Got it.
There was a lot of, think about it. I was 27
Right.
with a bachelor's in computer science, a master's in public administration,
Right.
and a master black belt in Lean Six Sigma, which means I'm coming in doing process reviews. I'm
Okay.
saving the company millions of dollars.
Right.
I helped design the 15-minute or less quote for Geico.
Right. Right.
On a national team.
Right. Okay.
And so I'm coming in with those type of experiences, and I'm coming into a government environment where there's some people who've been on these jobs for 35, 40 years. No formal education.
Yeah.
And I'm at the same level they are. Can you imagine that tension?
Yeah.
And so I just couldn't handle it. And I said, okay, I need to go try to do something else. And so
Law school was the
at first I was thinking about a doctorate in public administration.
okay.
I was going to spend most of my career in academia,
Okay.
working in higher ed.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And so I talked with some other people and went to a presentation. Dr. James Newton, Cam Newton's first cousin, is my best friend.
Okay.
And he invited me to a presentation with a young lady from Coca-Cola. She was speaking. And the young lady certainly was living her best life. And I asked her, I said, how do you do this, in Southern corporate America?
Yeah.
And she said, baby, I'm an attorney. She said, I'm a patent attorney. She said, Coke needs my knowledge. She said, I can come to work in a clown suit if I want to. It doesn't matter. They're still going to roll me that check. I said, yes, ma'am. I said,
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
I think that's a testament
Yes,
to young people is that you want to get in a field or maybe do something that fits a need.
You want to make yourself valuable.
Right. Right.
And
right.
invaluable at the same time.
Not explain that. What do you mean?
What I mean by that is you want to equip yourself. It's kind of like, let's say you got a hot date, right?
Okay.
And you getting ready for that date,
Okay,
right?
okay.
And you're hoping this might be the one,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
You're going to make sure you go, for guys anyway, you're going to go get the haircut.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're going to make sure everything's fresh.
Get
You
some
may
cologne.
go get you a new outfit, some cologne. You know what I'm saying? Everything's going to be together.
Right.
You got new kicks.
Okay.
No scuff marks around the
Right.
edge. You have to do the same thing in life. You have to do that with education and degrees and skills
I like how
and
you did that.
experience. You got to build yourself up. You got to make people want you.
Right.
Make people want you. Even when you're not offering it, you got to make them want you. And that's how you become competitive. Every work environment I've ever been on, I have made it my business to learn somebody else's job.
Really?
Whether my responsibility or not, I learned somebody else's job. Because if it came down to it, I was working with the city of Atlanta when I had to go in there and tell 30 people they no longer had their jobs because we were laying people off. I sent 30 people home that day that I knew personally, knew their children, knew their spouses, not knowing how they were going to feed their families the next week. The entire economy, everybody was struggling. It was around 2009. Remember we went into that recession around here? I was very young then.
I was young.
But that was a tough time for America. And government was having to lay employees off because of the recession. And so George Bush was the president. And it was a tough time for America. And we were on the heels of Obama. getting ready to come in.
Right,
and,
right.
And so
I was in elementary school.
Yes, and so it was seeing those things and a combination of things I've experienced in life has just made me want to be in a different space. I don't want to be in a space with everyone else, you know. But you couch that with that same spirit of humbleness.
Got it.
You know, it's nothing to get arrogant or cocky about.
Yeah.
It's just knowing that you have those tools if you need to use them, knowing that you have everything in your place. I mean, if you look at my academic track of a bachelor's in computer science, a master's in public administration, and a Juris Doctorate, and I'm licensed to practice law in Georgia and Florida.
Yeah.
Who would have ever thought that?
Yeah.
You know,
especially coming from where you came from.
Coming from where you came from. And one thing I've learned too, another thing that has fueled my fire, Matthew, is that I have brought my family along with me along the way. And I'll give you an example of that. I remember I was in law school. I was clerking for this judge. His name is Mark Lubat. He was in the felony division.
Okay.
Now, prior to me joining Mark, he had just heard the case with the young lady. What was the lady's name? She was the astronaut who drove in the diaper from Texas to Florida to go after her. We don't know if she was going to kill her or not. But
what year was this?
To go after her. This was in 2011, 2010, 2011, I think. To go after her spouse's mistress. Well, at any rate, I can't recall her name, but she was found guilty, you know, of attempting some things,
right?
And a year later comes, and her attorneys submit a motion to seal her records, and so the judge hand me the document and say, I want you to read this motion. I want you to prepare an answer for me.
Right.
And I'm like, this case been all on CNN. I don't want to touch this, right?
Right.
So lo and behold, I gave him my answer and I did my legal research on it and I wrote the brief and he agreed with it.
Yeah.
And he said, you know what? I'm going to go with that.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with that.
Yeah.
And I remember driving home that day from a long day at school and my mom called me and I tell you, when I went to law school, everybody went to law school with me. My mom, my grandmother, my aunts, my uncles, everybody talking law now, right? And so my mom said, I was watching the news and can you believe they're going to seal that lady's record who tried to kill that other lady, the astronaut woman? And I was like, I had a moment there, Matthew, and I was like, okay, do I engage and explain why her son made that decision, which is why we are where we are right now?
Right.
Or do I just simply say, ain't that a shame? Needless to say, I went with the latter.
Right.
Because I did not want to talk about that anymore that day.
Right.
But law school was amazing for me. You know,
but you brought your family. You said you brought your family.
They brought me. And when they found out that I couldn't come to Thanksgiving because I was in the middle of studying for finals, they brought Thanksgiving to me. About 40 family members came down to Orlando.
Wow.
And we had Thanksgiving, and they fed about 30 law students.
Wow.
Because so many of them couldn't go home. They're like, we want to come eat with y'all. We want to come eat with y'all. And we just kept making store runs, kept increasing the size of the menu because we wanted to feed a lot of people.
Well, to shift a little bit, Teddy, you are now state representative. You took the Honorable Calvin Smyrick.
Yes.
His place. And I mean, he's done so much.
Yes.
So much for Georgia and probably even other states too that we're unaware of, that I'm unaware of. What is it like filling some big shoes?
Well, you know.
But I also know he's been a mentor of you, so I'm pretty sure you were well prepared.
Absolutely. You know, I'm fortunate to have several mentors.
Yeah.
Numerous mentors.
Yeah.
You know, just in this position alone, I know I stand on the shoulders of giants like Congressman Sanford Bishop,
yes,
Representative Calvin Smyrick, and State Senator Ed Harbison.
Oh, yes.
They represent, if you look at them in the context with Albert Thompson, who was the first African-American state representative from this area, they represented that first generation of black leadership that came from Columbus. And I kind of like to see myself as the emergence of that second wave of Black leadership because I'm 43. You know, Representative
I thought you were
Smyrie
younger
was.
than that.
No, I look good. I know. Thank
thought
you.
you were younger than that.
Representative Smyrie was in the seat for 48 years.
I know.
I mean, he was serving 5 years before I was born. And, you know, and so you look at that in relation to the time that our current leaders have served us,
right?
And the time that they've put in, and it's a big burden knowing that we got to carry this mantle of leadership.
Yeah.
Are we really ready?
Yeah.
And making sure that we are ready
Yeah.
and that things are in place. And I'm fortunate to have worked with great leaders. Congressman Bishop sent me to many trainings in D.C.
Yeah.
The Congressional Boot Camp trainings in other locations. Senator Harbison has spent a lot of one-on-one time with me since I've been in Atlanta, and I'm extremely appreciative of that as well. And it's not about, you know, hiding the ball. It's about getting us ready for the next level. Now, I will never be able to fill Representative Smyrie's shoes. As a matter of fact, I told him to take his shoes. I was bringing my own.
Okay.
Because I only know how to do things Teddy way.
Right. Right.
And I think the people understood that they were not going to get another Calvin Smyrie.
Yeah.
But what I wanted the community to be comfortable with was knowing that they were electing a guy who's going to go there and fight like hell for them.
Absolutely.
You want a true advocate who can not only stand on the streets and talk with the common guy, because that's, you know, my family, those are folks I was raised with, to standing in a courtroom talking with a judge or sitting down at a formal dinner at the country club. No matter where it is, no matter what setting I am in, I am going to be effective for the people that I represent. Right. And that's extremely important that our elected officials have that level of diversity. Yeah. You know, it reminds me, my last year in law school, when I went to law school, I had one goal, that was just to be published.
Right.
I was able to be published, and I was published in the International Law Symposium edition. But my biggest honor from law school was that I was fortunate to serve as the national chair of the ABA Law Student Division. And one day I'll tell you about that election and that process. Right. But what that meant was that I was the face and voice for 179,000 law students nationwide. Yeah. And in charge of a $2.5 million budget while in law school. Right. So no matter if you went to Harvard or Yale or FAMU or North Carolina Central, it didn't matter. I was your face and I was your voice. And what really moved me about that is I was the fourth African-American in the 57-year history to serve in that role. Yeah. But I was the first one from a black law school. We are still out here making first. And even when we are not the first, the job that we do is so critical. We have to make sure that we are fighting every day to be effective for the people that we serve and making a difference in the lives of those who sent us to serve. Right. Every day I'm thinking about that senior who's having to decide, am I going to pay my light bill or buy my prescription medicine? Every day I'm thinking about that single mother like yours and mine who's concerned about the amount of spending that we're doing in our school districts and the fact we continue to cut the budgets and not provide our children the quality of education that they need. Right. Every day I'm thinking about that veteran who has served this country and maintained our freedom, but they can't even find a place to live because they're homeless and there's no government, no accessible government resources to help them. And then on top of that, the suicide rate of our veterans that continues to go higher and higher and higher. And I think about the unemployment of this area and how we got to get some industries here to replace some of the jobs that we've lost so that everyday regular people can go to work. Right, right. Those things are important to me. Right. So when I think of, if you don't mind, just finish
go
that
ahead.
statement.
No, go ahead.
So when I think about the legends here and I think about the new generation of leaders, that's why I'm so excited to sit down with people like you because we have a lot of seats. I mean, this as a community in general, we don't do the best job at succession planning. We don't do the best job at preparing for tomorrow. Right. But as someone who has stepped into this position, I would be neglecting my duties if I don't examine the current playfield, the current battleground, and say, okay, where we might need to plug in a buddy here every now and there, you know, and that's something to be thinking about. You know, I never told this. I appreciate the people who selected me to serve, and the people who selected me to serve understood I didn't come here to be another Calvin Smyrie.
Yeah.
My route is going to be different than representing the Smyries.
Yeah.
I don't even think I have the age capability to serve 48 years at this point. You know what I'm saying? But I want to be of best usage and placement for the people of this area. No matter where it is, I want them to know about my skills and just continue the interaction, because a lot of people here already know that.
Yeah.
They know these things.
Let's say there's a young man who wants to be where you are or wants to do the work that you do for the community. Give him, what are some traits he needs in order for them to be successful?
You know, the first thing I would say to that young man is you have to, one, make sure that your life is together.
Got it.
You can't serve other people if you are not in a right space yourself.
Now that's good.
Mentally,
That's
emotionally, and financially.
That's good.
You know, you gotta be in a good space, because this type work pulls a lot from you. Pulls a lot from you. I have spent a lot of my own personal money, you know, making sure I'm at places where I need to be, making sure I'm engaged in events, trying to support people events, you know, trying to engage. I have also lost a lot of time of watching my 7-year-old daughter grow up. But I have plugged in time when necessary too. And I've gotten creative with time. Catherine has attended quite a few events with me. Quite a few rallies. Quite a few community engagements. So one, I would say make sure that you are together. And two, I would say do your best to consult with the community on how you will be better served.
Got it.
Now, many people see that as a challenge, because it's not like we have an organization where you can go to and say, hey, okay, here I am. Where should I plug in? There are some people who don't worry about that second thing at all. They'll get out here running. That's why, you see now we got about 4 or 5 folks running for the same position.
Exactly.
That doesn't benefit our community. That doesn't benefit our community. And 3, you have to be real with yourself. So,
Go ahead.
Sometimes some of these folks around here know they ain't got no business putting their name on the ballot for what they put it on there for.
Right, absolutely.
I will always appreciate the right of anybody to run. Because you can. But one thing I will not do is support foolishness when you know you shouldn't be doing it.
Right.
When you know you shouldn't be doing it.
People need discernment. They need to.
If you're truly running for the greater good, if you're truly running for the community, I have always said if there was someone else running that I felt was better positioned, a better place than me, then I would not run.
Right.
And I'm not just talking, there's evidence of that.
Okay.
And the evidence of that was, remember when I ran against Skip Henderson?
I remember.
For the citywide city council?
I remember.
I had been in this city, I think, for 3 years. And we were only able to raise $16,000. And I got support from nobody. When I say nobody, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of voter support, but from like local leaders, which I understand. I was running against an incumbent. I mean, I can't expect people to run to my aid when I'm running against an incumbent. But we end up getting 42% of the vote. And people wanted to know, how did I run against a 20-year incumbent just getting to the city, and I got 42% of the vote? And I told them it's because, one, my community engagement. But it was less than 2 years later, he announced what? He was running for mayor. And he was dropping out of that city council seat. And I got tons of calls from people saying, you need to run. That's your seat. You barely lost it last time. You need to go get that seat. But I looked at some of the people who had already signed up to run in that election, and I felt some of those people were well qualified and capable of doing it. And one of those people, he didn't win, but one of those persons was Tolly Strode. I have always admired Mr. Strode's educational level and his leadership in the community. And so, and I didn't get in that race because of that. Because I felt it would have just been muddying the waters. None of us know how the community is going to vote. We never know that. We never know that. But as a man, as a community servant, I felt that I would have been doing a disjustice to my community to get in a race where this man has already announced, and I felt he was capable of doing the job. And so you got to be real with yourself.
You got to be real with yourself.
Got to be real with yourself.
But I think the most important thing you said, Teddy, was that you've got to have your mental health in check.
Yes.
In order to lead anybody,
Yes.
you've got to have your
Yes.
mental health in check.
Because when I press that button up there at the state capitol, Matthew, I'm not pressing it for Teddy Reese and Dr. Chester Reese and Catherine.
Yeah.
I'm pressing that button for 60,000 residents of House District 140.
Yeah.
I'm voting for 60,000 people.
Yeah.
So I have to think about what's going to be the best interest of our region, even if that best interest doesn't align with how I feel personally.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do my people need?
Right.
Where do we need to go? You know, and I'm proud to say that I think that the skills that I have employed in Atlanta has led to a lot of my successes in Atlanta.
Yeah.
You know, I was one of the only true Democratic freshmen to pass legislation this year.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable that a first-year legislator is up there passing legislation.
Yeah.
Not only that, the Speaker of the House selected me to be a part of the Georgia Legislative Leadership Institute.
Mm.
It was 18 of us that they sent to UGA for a special week-long training.
Mm-hmm.
There were over 50-something new freshmen in the
Right.
State House and State Senate
Right.
altogether.
Right.
They chose 18 of us, and I was one of those people. I was recently appointed by the Speaker of the House and the Lieutenant Governor to serve on a special subcommittee on economic development sustainability
Yeah.
for the state of Georgia,
Yeah.
which made me the first Democratic freshman to be appointed to a special study committee.
Right.
And I served a part of the leadership team for the Democratic caucus as a deputy whip.
Yeah.
I haven't been there a year yet. I was sworn in January 9th, 2023. You were there in the room.
I was.
Not
I was
even
in
a
the
year.
room.
And look what we're doing.
I think that's a great example of that you being obedient to God's call in your life. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing anybody can do if they're doing anything for people or want to do something that impacts people's lives is you must be obedient to the call on your life.
You have
and
to be
find
obedient.
out a way how you can be a service to other people.
And that's my last point. I was going to say I prayed.
Yeah.
I prayed and I talked to God
Yeah.
and I asked God to send me signs.
Right.
Of course, he's not going to send you a text message. You're not going to get an email.
Right.
But things will happen in your life.
Yeah.
Will give you an indication of whether or not you're headed down the road that you are supposed to be on.
Absolutely.
And it is the greatest honor of my life to be in this position right now,
Yeah.
serving the people of House District 140, serving Columbus.
Yeah.
Because we truly operate as an amazing delegation. I get to work with Carolyn Hughley.
Oh,
She is so phenomenal.
she is.
She is absolute.
Her
She
husband
is
is too.
Yes,
Yeah.
Dr. Isaiah Hughley.
Yeah.
Carolyn Hughley is, if I could just speak on her for 1 second.
She is pretty awesome.
She is one of these best kept secrets for this region.
Mm.
You know, and for so long, with Representative Smyrie being such a giant in the community and on the national scene from a political perspective, and it wasn't intentional,
Yeah.
but she didn't get as much light as she deserved.
Mm.
When I tell you, when we're in strategy sessions up there in Atlanta with the Democrats, and we're having tough discussions, and we need to point to a face of wisdom,
Yeah.
that face of wisdom is Carolyn Hughley.
Yeah.
Everyone turns to Carolyn and say, Rep. Hughley, what do you think?
Right.
What do you think? And I want history to reflect one day, because she served us now 33 years.
I know. She's been.
I want history to reflect appropriately
Yeah.
her
What-
contribution.
What do you want? Last couple of questions.
Mhm.
What do you want your legacy to be?
I haven't got far enough to think about a legacy yet.
Okay.
I'm just beginning. No matter what happens in my life, what I want people to remember and what I want people to know is that everything I did it for the betterment of the people.
Yeah.
I did it for the betterment of the culture, and I did it to make someone else's life better.
Yeah.
Better than the way I found it, better than it was when I arrived, and just better in general.
Yeah.
You know, one of my favorite saying is good, better, best. Never let it rest until your good gets better, and better is your best.
Mm.
And I want us to be at our best.
Yeah. What's the best advice you've ever been given, and who gave it to you?
Wow, that's a good one. The best advice I've ever been given. The best advice I've ever been given was by a man by the name of Dean Cornelius Grant. He is deceased now, but he adopted the title dean because he used to be dean of the College of Law library at Florida A&M when the law school was on the campus in Tallahassee.
Okay.
So when they closed down the law school, Billy Black, who was then the president of Albany State University, brought him up to Albany State, and his employment began at that time at Albany State.
Okay.
When I first arrived at Albany State, he was working over in the graduate studies after recently retiring from being the vice president of student affairs. And he went over to the graduate studies area.
Okay.
And Melanie Pierce was there, and then it wasn't long before Walter Kimbrough arrived. But I got very close with him.
Yeah.
And he was extremely instrumental in my process of applying to law school. And he made sure that when I got to FAMU Law, Dr. Humphreys, who was the former president of FAMU, who was now housed at the law school in Orlando, was there to greet me.
Okay.
And to make sure I had everything that I needed.
Right.
But one thing he said to me one day stuck with me. He said, Teddy, he said, let me tell you something. Well, he used to call me Tremaine. He said, Tremaine, I'm going to tell you something. He said, there's a thin line between arrogance and self-confidence. And that line is determined by the person who's evaluating you. If the people like you, they'll say, oh, I love his self-confidence. He is just so bold.
Right.
But if they dislike you, they'll say, oh, he's just so arrogant. He says, so the moral of the story here is be careful on how you dissect what people say to you, because some people will say things intentionally just to tear you down when they're taking what is a good trait and trying to make it negative. And he gave me that lesson during a time in which
Carson said,
he gave me that lesson during a time in which I was working on my self-confidence. You know, as a young black man raised by a single mother, and you understand this, there are often times where, you know, you can easily feel inadequate.
Absolutely.
You can easily feel that, you know, you're not supposed to be on certain stages, or you're not supposed to be in certain rooms. Well, when I was able to mentally accept and appreciate the fact that I'm not waiting on someone else to give me permission, I'm going to do it what I want to do when I want to do it.
Right.
It all came down to not me getting an additional college degree.
Yeah.
Not a pat on the back.
Yeah.
Not a written note.
Yeah.
It was a mental position in my own mind that I was going to be great.
Got it.
And I was going to move forward with the way that I wanted to move forward. And it came down to self-confidence.
Man.
Some people will call you arrogant. Let them say it. Because at the end of the day, it's your self-confidence.
Yeah.
It's your boldness. Be bold, my friend. You already know how. You're living that every day. You're exercising that every day. Be bold. Continue to be you. Do things that people wouldn't imagine. I think, I can honestly say this is probably my first sit down as a state representative.
Really?
Yes, like this. I've done many of media interviews, but really sitting down, having an extensive conversation with someone and being able to express myself and being asked thought-provoking questions.
Yeah.
This is the first time.
Well,
so congratulations. Who knows where this interview may end up one day? Who knows?
Last question. You ready? Thank you for that, because that is something that I struggle with and probably will work on a while now, you know. But it's great men in my life that remind me of that. So thank you for saying that to me. Last question. If you just imagine with me, you're sitting in a room and your 10-year-old self is walking in and he's sitting next to you. What do you say to him, knowing what you know now?
What I would say to him is, the struggles that you are experiencing, my son, will make you stronger. The struggles are necessary to get you to where God is taking you in life. Because where he's going to need you the most and where he's going to be using you, you're going to need that training to survive. There's a quote that I saw one day that says, calm seas never built a master seller. I want to be a master at whatever God wants me to do. And I know that's going to come with some turbulence. I know that's going to come with some tough times, some sleepless nights, some crying, But there will also be laughter. There will be joy.
Yeah.
And the sun will rise again in the morning. Weeping may do it for a night, but joy comes in the morning.
Yes.
And I will remind that 10-year-old that joy will come, because 10-year-old me had gone through a lot. 10-year-old me had gone through experiencing domestic violence in my own house.
Yeah.
The reason I was raised by a single mother.
Yeah.
That 10-year-old me had gone through identity issues, trying to understand, did I belong?
Yeah.
And how I belong.
Yeah.
That 10-year-old me was transitioning through a confinement of life, which is the best that my family could provide for me. I didn't want much. I want for anything, but there was a lot I didn't have.
Yeah.
You know, that others had. And so I would certainly make sure that 10-year-old understands it's important that they just keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Don't stop. And it reminds me, and I'll close with Dr. King when he said, run. If you can't run, walk. You can't walk, crawl. But whatever you do, do not stop.
Yeah. By all means.
By all means.
Keep moving.
Keep moving.
Teddy
By all
Reese.
means.
Teddy Reese. You the man, man. You the man.
Well, you know,
I love you. I appreciate you. I really do.
I appreciate you too, brother. I just, you know, I'm a humble guy.
Yeah.
I just try to inspire other people.
Yeah.
And folks say, you know, folks tell me all the time, I want to be like you. And I know, be better than me.
Yeah.
Be better than me. Use my life as the new bar. We're raising the bar.
Yeah.
Everybody's jumping higher.
Yeah. Well, that's your legacy. That's your legacy.
Yeah.
Every life you touch is your legacy.
Yes,
and you're doing it, brother.
Well, thank you. And thank you for what you do.
Oh, well.
And you stay out there. Stay engaged. Continue to be a voice. Exercising this First Amendment right, freedom of speech. I like that. I like that. Keep doing that.
Yeah.
And keep learning.
I will.
Keep learning. I can see you, man, on a nightly news somewhere one day doing your thing. You have the pedigree for it. Don't let nobody stop you. I'm talking about national news. I'm not talking about anything here local.
I appreciate that.
And some people say, well, how is he going to get there? Well, tell me how a little country boy raised by a single mother who grandma walked to work became a state representative.
Right.
When my grandmother cried and said, I went from mopping floors and cleaning floors on my knees for you to stand on the House floor of the Georgia General Assembly and be sworn in. Man. But guess what? That's not the last floor I'm going to stand on.
I believe
this
that.
This is just the beginning.
I believe that.
God has a path.
I believe that.
This is just the beginning.
And we're going to support you all the way, brother.
Buckle up and get ready.
Love you, Teddy Reese.
Love you too, my friend. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.